Imagine spending an entire year trying to understand something while one man does it in just only an hour. That man is Richard Feynman, and what he knew about learning will completely change how you think about studying. Most people believe learning means collecting information. They read books, watch lectures, underline sentences, and memorize definitions. At the end, they feel productive, but when asked to explain the idea in simple words, everything collapses. Richard Feynman saw this problem early. He understood that memorization creates the illusion of knowledge, not real understanding. For Feynman, knowing something meant being able to explain it clearly without hiding behind technical language. If an idea only made sense when wrapped in equations or complicated terms, he didn't trust it. He believed that true understanding should survive simplification. When you strip an idea down to its core, what remains is what you actually know. Many students memorize formulas because they work in exams. Feynman rejected this approach completely. He argued that a formula is only useful if you understand where it comes from and what it describes in the real world. Without that connection, the formula is just a symbol, and symbols alone don't create insight. He often pointed out that you can memorize the name of something and still know nothing about it. Calling a process energy transfer or quantum interaction doesn't mean you understand what is really happening. Words can hide ignorance just as easily as they can reveal truth. Feynman refused to be fooled by impressive vocabulary. Understanding in Feynman's view was active. It required questioning every step. Why does this happen? What would change if this part were different? How would I explain this to someone with no background at all? Each question peeled away shallow knowledge and exposed what was real. This is why he spent so much time explaining ideas out loud, even to himself. When you try to explain something simply, your brain has no place to hide. Gaps become obvious. Confusion appears immediately. Instead of being a problem, that confusion becomes valuable information. It tells you exactly what you don't yet understand. Most people avoid this moment. They prefer to move on, read more, or memorize harder. Feynman did the opposite. He stopped at the confusion and worked through it until the idea became clear. That habit alone separated him from average learners. Memorization feels fast, but it is fragile. It breaks under pressure and disappears with time. Understanding is slower at first, but it lasts. Once an idea is truly understood, it can be rebuilt, adapted, and applied to new situations. Feynman valued this durability more than speed. This approach also made learning enjoyable. Instead of feeling like a burden, learning became a puzzle. Each concept was something to explore, not something to store. Curiosity replaced anxiety, and thinking replaced repetition. In the end, Feynman's advantage was not intelligence in the traditional sense. It was honesty. He never claimed to know what he didn't. By rejecting memorization and demanding understanding, he learned less material, but understood it more deeply. And that depth is what allowed him to learn in 1 hour what others struggled with for a year. Most people treat confusion as a sign of failure. The moment something doesn't make sense, they assume the subject is too hard or that they are not smart enough. Richard Feynman saw confusion very differently. To him, confusion was not an obstacle to learning. It was a precise signal pointing to where real learning needed to begin. Feynman believed that understanding is never smooth. The brain does not grow by accepting ideas easily, but by struggling with them. When confusion appears, it means the mind has reached the edge of its current understanding. That edge is exactly where progress happens. Instead of avoiding that uncomfortable feeling, Feynman stopped and examined it. He asked himself what part of the idea was unclear. Was it a definition, a hidden assumption, a missing connection? By breaking confusion into smaller pieces, he turned it into a roadmap for learning. Most learners do the opposite. When they feel confused, they move forward without clarity. They read the next page, watch another video, or copy someone else's explanation. This creates a dangerous illusion of progress. The confusion doesn't disappear, it gets buried. Later, it returns stronger and more frustrating. Feynman never buried confusion, he welcomed it. He understood that pretending to understand was far more damaging than admitting ignorance. Saying, "I don't know," was not embarrassing to him. It was honest, and honesty saved time. He often said that nobody truly understands certain parts of physics, especially quantum mechanics. Coming from a Nobel Prize winning physicist, this statement shocked people, but it also revealed his mindset. He accepted uncertainty as part of reality. That acceptance allowed him to explore ideas freely without the pressure to appear certain. Confusion also kept Feynman curious. When something didn't make sense, it bothered him in a productive way. He couldn't ignore it. That mental itch pushed him to think deeper, ask better questions, and search for clearer explanations. Confusion became fuel rather than fear. This approach requires courage. It is much easier to nod along and pretend. In classrooms and meetings, people often stay silent to avoid looking ignorant. Feynman refused to play that game. He asked simple questions. Even if they sounded naive often, those questions exposed flaws that others had missed. By treating confusion as information, Feynman made learning efficient. He didn't waste time reviewing what he already knew. He focused only on the unclear parts. Every moment of study targeted a specific gap, not a general topic. That precision dramatically reduced learning time. Confusion also protected him from overconfidence. Overconfidence closes the mind. When you believe you already understand, you stop listening. Feynman's comfort with confusion kept his mind open and flexible, even as an expert. In the long run, this mindset created deep understanding. Ideas built on honesty are stronger than ideas built on confidence alone. Feynman's willingness to sit with confusion, instead of escaping it, allowed him to see problems more clearly than most people. What others feared, he used. What others avoided, he studied. That is why confusion in Feynman's hands became one of the most powerful learning tools imaginable, and why it helped him learn in 1 hour what others needed a year to grasp. Most people think learning happens by reading, listening, and repeating. They sit quietly, absorb information, and assume understanding will appear on its own. Richard Feynman discovered something very different. He learned fastest when he tried to teach, even when there was no one listening. Feynman believed that explaining an idea forces the mind to organize thoughts clearly. When you teach, you can't hide behind half-understood phrases. Every sentence must make sense or the explanation falls apart. This pressure exposes weak understanding immediately. He often imagined teaching a child or a complete beginner. That choice was intentional. Children don't accept vague answers. They ask simple but brutal questions: why, how, and what does that really mean? Teaching at this level strips away complexity and reveals whether the idea is truly understood. Most people explain things using the same technical language they learned. Feynman avoided this trap. If an explanation depended on jargon, he knew it wasn't real understanding. He pushed himself to replace complex words with everyday language, metaphors, and real examples. This process was uncomfortable. Teaching reveals ignorance more clearly than studying does. While reading, confusion can stay hidden. While teaching, confusion becomes obvious. Feynman valued this discomfort because it showed him exactly what needed work. When he couldn't explain a step clearly, he stopped and returned to the source. He didn't move forward until the gap was filled. That habit prevented small misunderstandings from growing into major confusion later. Most learners wait until they fully understand before trying to teach. Feynman did the opposite. He taught while learning. This turned learning into an active process instead of a passive one. Teaching became a tool, not a final step. By explaining ideas repeatedly, he strengthened his mental models. Each explanation refined the concept, removed unnecessary parts, and strengthened connections. Over time, the idea became flexible and usable, not rigid and fragile. Teaching also revealed relationships between ideas. When you explain something, you naturally compare it to what the listener already knows. This creates connections, and connections are the foundation of deep understanding. Isolated facts fade quickly, connected ideas last. Feynman's lectures were famous not because he simplified physics, but because he clarified it. He respected his audience's intelligence while refusing to confuse them. That balance came from years of practicing explanation as a learning tool. This method saved time. Instead of rereading the same material, Feynman improved understanding by restructuring it in his own words. One good explanation could replace dozens of hours of passive review. Teaching also built confidence grounded in reality. Confidence based on memorization is fragile. Confidence built through explanation is strong because it has been tested. Feynman trusted what he could explain and questioned everything else. In the end, learning by teaching transformed knowledge into skill. It allowed Feynman to use ideas creatively, solve new problems, and adapt quickly. While others collected information, he built understanding. That is why teaching, even to an imaginary audience, became one of his most powerful learning tools, and why it helped him learn in 1 hour what others struggled with for a year. Most people waste time not because they are lazy, but because they are dishonest with themselves. They tell themselves they understand something when they don't. Richard Feynman believed this quiet self-deception was the biggest enemy of learning. Honest thinking to him was not a personality trait, it was a daily discipline. Feynman approached learning with a simple rule: never pretend. The moment he felt unsure, he admitted it, even if no one else was listening. This honesty saved him enormous amounts of time. Instead of reviewing what he already half knew, he focused directly on what was unclear. Many learners confuse activity with progress. They read for hours, take notes, and watch lectures at double speed. Feynman saw this as fake work. Without clear thinking, effort becomes noise. Honest thinking cuts through that noise and reveals what actually matters. He practiced intense focus. When Feynman studied, he removed distractions and worked with full attention. 1 hour of deep, uninterrupted thinking mattered more to him than 10 hours of scattered effort. He understood that the brain needs quiet to make connections. Ego is the biggest distraction of all. People want to feel smart, so they avoid questions that might expose ignorance. Feynman deliberately crushed his ego. He asked basic questions, challenged assumptions, and accepted being wrong. That attitude kept his thinking sharp and flexible. Honest thinking also meant questioning authority. If a textbook said something that didn't make sense, Feynman didn't accept it automatically. He derived ideas from first principles. This process took courage and patience, but it built solid understanding instead of borrowed confidence. Most people rely on shortcuts. They memorize results without understanding the process. Feynman avoided shortcuts unless he had already earned them through understanding. He believed shortcuts are useful only after clarity, not before. This honesty extended to problem solving. When he couldn't solve a problem, he didn't hide the failure. He studied why the solution failed. Each failure refined his thinking. Time spent analyzing mistakes was never wasted. Feynman also avoided multitasking. He knew that divided attention produces shallow thinking. Honest thinking requires full presence. When he worked completely. When he rested without guilt. That balance protected his mental energy. One reason others need a year to learn is that they repeat the same mistakes quietly. Feynman corrected mistakes immediately. By confronting errors early, he prevented them from slowing him down later. Honest thinking builds trust in one's own mind. Instead of depending on notes, formulas, or external validation, Feynman trusted understanding that had been tested by questioning. This trust made him faster and more confident in real situations. In the end, 1 hour of honest, focused thinking beats a year of distracted, ego-driven study. Feynman's success was not magic. It was the result of clarity, humility, and discipline. By removing pretending, eliminating distractions, and thinking deeply, he turned time into an advantage. That is why his learning looked effortless from the outside, while inside it was built on ruthless honesty.